Mitigating risk through using the BRRRR strategy. Hello everybody, my name is Michael Richter and I'm the owner and managing partner of BRRRR Properties. And today in the video I'm going to share with you, I'm going to show you how I'm mitigating my own risk through using this BRRRR strategy. So a while ago I had somebody come up to me and ask me a question about the risk in the market. Typically people that don't have a lot of experience in real estate always talk about this risk. There's this looming risk over their head, and that's one of the reasons why people don't get started. But somebody said, you know what, I'd get into real estate, but there's so much risk with the prices and the economy crashing, the market falling, and everything else. And I always like to explain it. I'm always happy to explain that with people, and usually after a quick conversation I can remove a lot of those fears just by explaining what I do in the state of the economy. So first of all, I buy properties based on fundamentals, the fundamentals of an area, first and foremost. I could get way into how I'm purchasing them, but that's how I buy for the most part. Second of all, I create my own assets. So by using this BRRRR method with what we're doing right now on projects, I'm creating an asset that didn't exist in the first place. I'm doing that by taking a project, by taking a property. For example, what we're doing right now, we've got 3 single conversions right now as I'm recording this video, and we're taking them from a single bungalow and we're adding a secondary suite, and we're also doing renovation work up top to increase the value. So by doing this, I'm adding value. And by doing that, I'm creating equity. I'm creating equity in a product that didn't exist before that. So you've got the house price is one thing. You've got the house price, that's one cost. Then you've got the renovation budget, that's your second big cost of doing this. When you combine the two, you're now lifting the value and creating equity higher and greater than the renovations you're putting into that. So let me get into this. Let me explain this. When we buy this property, we're buying this under value, okay? We're buying this under value to start off with. So this is market value, and here's where we buy. We buy it under value. And you're probably wondering, well, how do I get it under value? How do I know what's under value? Well, first of all, if you want to start buying properties and doing real estate, you got to be an expert in what area you're buying in. You got to have the ability, you have to have the ability to start recognizing prices. As you create repetition, your brain, you're going to start picking up on what's not normal. So there'll be normal price, normal price, normal price. All of a sudden, when you see that deal, it's going to be there and you're going to recognize it. But to do that, you have to go through a lot of properties. You have to know people in the area. You have to have a good power team set up. And you have to recognize what a good asset is. And that comes through, for me, it was repetition. It was going through property after property after property and then recognizing what a value was. Second of all, if you want to get under market value, I'm talking about the MLS right now, you're going to have to act quick. So if a property comes up on a Monday, for example, you're going to have to go there on Monday to look at that property and put an offer in. You're not going to wait till 5 o'clock. You're not going to wait till Saturday or Sunday when you take the weekend off and everything's comfortable, because you'll have a million other people, if it's a hot market, going through there before you do. So you're going to have to act lightning fast, speed of implementation, to put an offer in, tie it up before any other offers come in. And there's many different ways to structure offers. And if you have a really good agent you're working with who's tactical, you're going to really know how to do that properly, and you're going to use that agent's advice to do that offer. So we're buying under value. Or the other way of doing it, that's just one example. There's wholesalers, there's off-market deals, which we've purchased properties with. There's many different ways to acquire properties under market value. You really just don't want to be competing with people and getting into the whole bidding war competitions, because that's not going to help you. So I'm buying it under. That's that little gap right there. That equity lift, when we take a product and we do, whether it's cosmetic work and just surfaces up top, just countertops, or just floors, or just paint, or we're actually moving walls around to give it the highest, best possible use to really try to bring up the value without spending a ton of cash, that's going to create instant equity in that project that didn't exist. Just the conversion project, from going from a single bungalow, a single family dwelling, to a 2-family house, that's going to really lift up the value and the cost just by doing that. So by creating this equity, I now have a buffer. I'm not just putting, like for this example, I could use anywhere between $40,000 to $60,000 to $70,000. Those are some of the lifts that we're seeing in our projects in what we're doing. By creating this lift right here, I'm creating equity. I'm not putting $70,000. I'm not putting $50,000 of my own equity in this. I have to put a down payment to acquire the property. I have to keep 20% into this property. as per the lending guidelines for most lenders, they're going to want to see usually about 20% in here. I'm going to have another video coming up where you don't have to put down 20% too. I've got a few more videos on that. But that equity lift is creating that buffer. So the point is, if the market drops and I've got, say, $50,000 in this property and the market starts to correct, it's going to correct, but it's not really going to be the money I have in. If I just dumped all of that $50,000 in there and I didn't do this value add, I would essentially be out of money. That would be money out of pocket because that's my own money, and then that money would be essentially, it would be gone, right? But because there's equity, I'm lifting the value, I'm creating a buffer around myself to help mitigate risk. And as long as there's still cash flow on the property coming in, because now we're putting a secondary suite in there, so I'm going to have 2 rents coming in. And also, when I'm adding value to the property, what happens to the value up on top of the house on the first floor? Even if it's just a one dwelling house, I'm creating a better market value for rent, so I'm getting higher rents. So if this property is cash flowing and the market drops, because I have rent coming in, even 2 rents, it's still cash flowing, it's still occurring. So if I have a longer term vision, I'm not just turning around and flipping the property, I can now buffer myself because I've got the cash flow coming in, I've got equity built into the property, and I can sleep better at night because I know that, you know what, I've created money that's just pure equity in the house. I've done that through the lift on this conversion, and I've got a strong cash flow coming in. So those are 2 ways that, if you're wondering what's the risk in the market, those are just 2 ways that you're going to be able to mitigate risk. And I also have a YouTube video on that too. If you scroll back, and if you're a subscriber, you can see that, and it's also in the feed also. So this is a very powerful way. That's just one of the ways to mitigate risk in conversions, and that's one of the ways that I feel comfortable mitigating risk, and I like to create equity. So if you have any more questions about this, please reach out to me. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I'm happy to engage with all of you. Send me an email. My email address is eproperties@gmail.com, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for watching this video. Take care, everyone.